She hid the ultrasound until the Mafia boss read his name and whispered, "That's our child." The smell of burnt coffee and cheap grease clings to everything in this diner. It gets in your hair, under your nails, deep in your clothes. Some nights, I scrub my skin raw in the shower of my tiny apartment, but I can never get the scent of failure off me. My name is Juliette Moreau, at least, it used to be. For the last 5 months, I have been Jenna Martin, a ghost in dirty sneakers, working double shifts at the Claymore City all-night diner. My feet ache, not just a normal, end-of-the-day ache, but a deep, throbbing pain that starts in my heels and shoots up my calves. I am in my mid-20s, but most days I feel like I'm 100. I shift my weight, leaning against the steel counter, and press a hand to the small of my back. The ache there is new. It is a constant, dull reminder of every choice I have made. "Hey, Jenna, table 4 needs a refill, and the grill's backed up." Sal, the night manager, barks from the kitchen window. He does not look at me. He never does. "On it," I mutter. I grab the lukewarm coffee pot. Table 4 is a trucker, his eyes glassy as he stares at the rain lashing against the windows. Claymore City is always weeping. I pour the black sludge into his mug, my hand steady. I have gotten good at this. The steady hand, the blank expression, the quick, invisible movements of a woman who does not want to be seen. This is my life now, a life I chose, a life of running, of hiding, of being so completely and utterly alone, all to escape the man I still see every time I close my eyes. Luca, the memory of him hits me without warning. It is not a soft, gentle thing. It is a physical blow, a punch to the gut that almost makes me drop the pot. It is triggered by nothing. The metallic clatter of a fork, the low rumble of a truck engine, the particular way the shadows gather in the corner of the diner. Luca Romano. Our relationship was not a whirlwind. A whirlwind is chaotic and messy and loud. What we had was secret. It was silent and deep and dangerous. It lasted only 3 months, but those 3 months undid my entire life. I was not supposed to meet him. I was a catering waitress, working a high-end party at some glass tower downtown. I was clearing plates when he spoke. "You missed one." His voice, I hear it in my sleep. It was low, with the unmistakable gravel of his Sicilian-American roots, a sound like whiskey pouring over stones. I turned, and the world tilted. He was not like the other men in their sharp suits, laughing too loudly. He was still watching, with eyes so dark they looked black. He was beautiful, in the way a panther is beautiful, all coiled power and lethal grace. He was the host, the owner of the penthouse, the owner of the building, the owner of half the city. He did not just look at me. He saw me. He saw the cracks in my polite waitress smile, the exhaustion I tried to hide, and I saw him, beneath the armor of his bespoke suit, beneath the reputation that preceded him, the whispers of Romano, of Mafia, of danger. I saw a flicker of something, a hidden vulnerability, a loneliness that mirrored my own. He found me in the service hallway an hour later. He did not corner me. He just stood there, blocking my path, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. "They are paying you to serve drinks," he said, "not to look like you are about to run." "I'm not running," I lied, my heart hammering. "No?" His mouth quirked in a smile that did not reach his eyes. "You've been looking at the exits all night." He knew. I was always looking for the exit. My whole life had been about escaping. A childhood with no money, a mother who gave up, a string of dead-end jobs. "What do you want, Mr. Romano?" "Juliette Moreau," he said, and the way my name sounded on his tongue made me shiver. "You work too hard, and you are sad." That was it. He did not proposition me. He did not threaten me. He just stated a fact, and in that moment, I felt seen for the first time in my life. Our nights were stolen. He would send a car, always black, always with no one in the back but me. It would take me to his penthouse, a place of glass and steel and silence. High above the dirty streets, we would not talk about what he did. We would not talk about the men with bulging coats who stood by his elevators. We would just be... I remember the first night he truly touched me. We were standing by the floor-to-the-ceiling windows, the lights of Claymore City sparkling below us like a carpet of fallen stars. He did not grab me. He just lifted his hand and traced the line of my jaw with one finger. His hands were large, calloused, but his touch was impossibly gentle. "You are shaking," he whispered. "You scare me," I admitted. "I know." He did not deny it. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. He smelled of expensive soap and something metallic, like old pennies and power. "I will not hurt you, Juliet. Not in here." His mouth found mine, and it was not a kiss of passion. Not at first. It was a kiss of questions, of testing. It was slow and deep and searching, and when I opened my mouth to him, a small sigh escaping me, the kiss changed. It became possessive, hungry, a claim. His hands moved from my face to my waist, pulling me against him. He was solid, an anchor in a world that had always felt like drifting water. His thumb grazed the skin of my hip, just above the waistband of my cheap jeans. A jolt went through me, a heat that had nothing to do with the fireplace crackling across the room. I was lost. I wrapped my arms around his neck, holding on as if he were the only solid thing on earth. And for those few weeks, he was... In the dark, he was not just a Mafia boss. He was just Luca. He would lie with his head in my lap, his eyes closed, and I would run my fingers through his thick, black hair. He would tell me about his mother, who died young, and the lemon trees in Sicily he barely remembered. He showed me the scars on his knuckles and the vulnerability he hid from the world. And I, like a fool, fell in love with him. "Refill," the trucker at table 4 shouts, jolting me back. I blink, the image of the penthouse dissolving into the harsh fluorescent glare of the diner. My hand is shaking. I grip the coffee pot tighter. "Sorry," I mutter and pour. I left Luca before he could leave me, or before his world destroyed me. The illusion of safety shattered one night. I was waiting for him in the penthouse. He was late. He finally walked in at 3 a.m, his suit immaculate, but with a single, dark reddish-brown stain on his white cuff. He did not see me in the darkened living room. He went to the bar, poured a whiskey, and downed it in one swallow. He leaned his hands on the marble bar. His head hung low, and his entire body vibrated with a tension so violent I could feel it from across the room. "Luca," I whispered. He flinched, spinning around, for 1 second, a single terrifying second. The man I knew was gone. In his place was a stranger, his eyes cold, flat, and dangerous. He did not just look at me, he looked through me. The mask slipped back into place. "Juliet, go to bed. I am busy." "You are bleeding," I said, nodding at his cuff. "It is not my blood." He said it so calmly, so simply, and in that moment, I knew. I was not just a woman he was seeing. I was a distraction, a pet. And outside that penthouse, his world was ruled by blood, by violence, by things I could not comprehend. I was a waitress. He was a kingpin. This was not a fairy tale. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. I decided to vanish that night. I waited until he was in the shower. I put on my coat, walked out of the penthouse, took the private elevator down, and never looked back. I threw away the burner phone he had given me. I quit my catering job. I packed a single bag, took a bus to the furthest, poorest part of Claymore City, and became Jenna Martin. I thought I had been clean. I thought I had gotten away. Then, 2 weeks later, the morning sickness started. I was in the bathroom of a new, cheap apartment, staring at 2 pink lines on a plastic stick I had bought from the dollar store. Pregnant, I was pregnant. I did not cry, I just laughed, a dry, harsh sound that bounced off the peeling tile. Of course. The one thing that could tie me to Luca Romano forever, the one part of him I could not run from, growing right inside me. My decision already made, solidified into something unbreakable. This was not just about me anymore. This was about my child. A child in his world? A Romano heir? That child would be a target from the moment it took its first breath. It would be a pawn in a game I did not understand. It would be surrounded by the violence that stained his cuffs. No, I would not let that happen. He would never know. I would raise this baby alone, in poverty, in anonymity. I would protect it. That was 5 months ago. My new life is a fortress of paranoia. I found a new job, this time as a hotel maid. It is anonymous work, head down, headphones in, pushing a cart. No one talks to the maids. The clinic I go to is on the other side of town. I pay in cash. What little I can scrape together from my tips, I use my fake name. Jenna, we really need the father's medical history. Doctor, Evan said at my last appointment, her face kind but firm. It is important for the baby. Genetic conditions, blood type, family history of, well, anything. I felt the walls of the small examination room close in. My hands started to shake. He is not in the picture. I understand that, but even just a phone call. I can't, I snapped, harsher than I intended. The nurse looked up, surprised. I lowered my voice, clutching the thin paper sheet over my stomach. I do not know his family history. He's gone. I cannot contact him. Please, just do the best you can with just me. Please. She sighed, making a note in my file. Jenna, you seem very stressed, frightened. If you are in a domestic situation... I am not, I said, cutting her off. I'm just alone, and I want to keep it that way. She did not push it again, but the fear stayed. What if I said his name? Luca Romano. What if they put it in a file? What if someone, one of his enemies, or even one of his men, found it? I was paranoid. I saw his face in every dark sedan, heard his voice in every low-talking group of men. My paranoia was not wrong. It happened last week, at the hotel. I was cleaning a suite on the 10th floor. The guests were supposed to be out. I knocked, announced housekeeping, and used my key. The room was empty, a mess of towels and empty bottles. I started in the bathroom, scrubbing the sink. Then I heard them. Voices from the main room. Men. Their accents were sharp. American-Italian. Just like the men who used to guard Luca's elevators. My blood turned to ice. I froze, hiding in the bathroom, not even daring to breathe. I am just saying, Luca's got his head somewhere else these days, one man said, his voice a low growl. He's been distracted ever since, well, for months. It is this business with Vito Mancini, a second voice said. Mancini is getting sloppy, ambitious. He thinks Luca's soft. Vito Mancini. The name hit me like a physical slap. I remembered him, a capo from a rival family. Though they were supposed to be allies, I had seen him once, at a dinner. He had looked at me like I was a steak he was deciding how to carve. His eyes were cold, dead. Luca had hated him. I remembered the tension between them, thick and sharp as a knife. Heard Vito's looking to expand. The first man said, he does not care who he clips to take Luca's position. And Luca? He's just sitting on his hands. It is not like him. Maybe he is just waiting, the second man said. Or maybe he is just... The door opened. I saw a shadow. I squeezed my eyes shut, clutching a bottle of glass cleaner, my only weapon. Lobby, the second man said. Come on, I hate this side of the river. The main door to the suite slammed shut. I stayed in that bathroom for 10 minutes, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would break a rib. They were not here for me. They did not even know I existed, but they were here. In my safe part of the city, they were talking about Luca, about Vito, about a war that was brewing. My safety was an illusion, a thin, cheap sheet of glass, and they were the stones. That night, I went home to my apartment. I am bigger now. The morning sickness has faded, replaced by a constant hunger and the undeniable swell of my stomach, sometimes late at night. I feel it, a flutter, a tiny, insistent kick, a small life reminding me it is there. I sat on my lumpy mattress and pulled out the small, grainy ultrasound picture from my last clinic visit. It was just a black and white smudge, a little bean, my baby. I was so lonely. The weight of the secret, the fear, the isolation, it was crushing me. What if something happened to me? What if I got hit by a bus or got caught in the crossfire of men like the ones at the hotel? This baby would have nothing. No one. It would not even have a name. In a moment of total, abject weakness, I did the stupidest thing I have ever done. I took a pen from the cracked mug on my nightstand. I grabbed the cheap manila envelope the clinic had given me, the one holding the picture, and on the front, in my shaking, tear-blurred handwriting, I wrote his name, Luca Romano. It was a betrayal of every rule I had made. It was a danger. But it was also the truth. He was the father, and if I died, I wanted someone somewhere to know. I sealed the envelope. Tucking the picture inside, I shoved it deep in my bottom dresser drawer, under a stack of sweaters I had bought at a thrift store. A secret, buried inside a secret. The diner door swings open, a blast of cold, wet air hitting me. I shiver. The week since the hotel incident has been hell. Every shadow is a threat. Every car that slows down is an enemy. And tonight, it finally broke me. I was walking home from the grocery store just before my shift. I had 2 bags, milk, eggs, bread, my payday splurge. I took the shortcut through the alley, the one I always take. A car screeched to a halt at the end of the block, shouting, not Italian, just angry, desperate street noise. I ducked behind a dumpster, my heart leaping into my throat. 2 groups of men, teenagers, mostly, posturing, yelling. Then a pop. Not loud, just a dry, flat sound. Another pop, pop. Gunfire! I dropped the groceries. The milk carton burst, white spreading across the grimy pavement. I pressed myself against the brick, my hands flying to my stomach, shielding my baby. I was hyperventilating, tasting sour bile in the back of my throat. This is it. This is the world I ran from. This is the world I am bringing a child into. It is not just his world. It is this world. The violence, the desperation, the ease with which a life can be snuffed out over nothing. Luca's world was just a richer, better-dressed version of this alley. It all bleeds. It all stains. The sound of tires squealing, fading into the distance. Silence. I peered out. One of the boys was on the pavement, not moving. I ran all the way to my apartment, my lungs burning. The image of the spreading milk and the still body burned into my brain. I got inside, slammed the deadbolt, and slid to the floor, shaking. I could not breathe. I was going to be sick. I am not safe. I have never been safe. I traded a gilded cage for a concrete one, but the bars are just as real. And I am alone. I am so alone. I crawled to my bag, my fingers fumbling. I had an old phone, the one I had before Luca, the one I kept, battery dead. At the bottom of my bag, just in case, a relic. I plugged it into the wall charger, my hands shaking too hard to get it in the first time. I waited. 5 minutes. The screen flickered to life. I had one number memorized, one person from my old life who was not his. Cara, my best friend, my only friend. She was a bartender at Il Cuore Nero, the high-end club Luca owned. She knew about us. She had warned me. Jules, men like that do not date, and she had said, they acquire. But she never judged me. When I disappeared, I had not even told her. My thumb hovered over her name. Calling her was a risk. She was still in his world, but I was broken. The gunfire, the hotel, the loneliness. I could not hold it all anymore. I pressed call. It rang once, twice. Juliet? Kara's voice was a shot of whiskey, warm and sharp. Oh my God, Juliet, where in the hell are you? Are you okay? The sound of her voice, the simple fact of someone knowing my real name, shattered the last of my control. I broke. A sob tore out of my chest, a raw, animal sound. Kara, I choked out. I made a mistake. I am so scared. I am so scared. Jules, what is wrong? Where are you? Her voice was instantly low, professional. The bartender voice. The one she used when things got heavy. "I do not know," I sobbed, which was not true. "I am in the city. I saw something, gunfire. Kara, I cannot do this alone." "Alone? What are you—" There was a pause. I heard muffled music, the clink of glass. "Okay, honey, listen to me. I am at the club. Come here now." "No," I recoiled. "No, I cannot go there. What if he is there?" "He is not," she said, too quickly. "He's busy. He's always busy. Listen, it is safe. I promise. I am in the back office. No one will see you. I will let you in the side delivery door, by the alley, okay? Please. Jules, you sound like you are falling apart. Let me help you." I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up, throw the phone, and crawl back into my hole. But the desperation was stronger. The need to see one familiar face, to have one person in this entire world know the truth. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, I am coming." I hung up. I stood, my legs trembling. I looked at myself in the cracked hallway mirror, a ghost with haunted eyes. My baggy sweater and thin coat could not hide the gentle, undeniable curve of my stomach. I looked at the dresser, the envelope. My hand moved on its own. It was not a logical thought. It was a primal, desperate instinct, just in case. Just in case what? In case I needed to give it to Kara? In case she could keep it safe? In case... I did not let myself finish the thought. I pulled the manila envelope from the drawer. It was sealed. Luca Romano. His name on the front felt like a brand. I shoved it deep into the inner pocket of my coat. It lay heavy against my ribs, a stone of truth in a sea of lies. I wiped my face, took a deep breath that hitched in my chest, and unlocked my door. The diner. Sal. The smell of grease. It all seems like a lifetime ago. I am on the bus, heading downtown, heading back into the lion's den. I am walking toward the one place on earth I swore I would never, ever go again. All for the comfort of a friend. All because I am too weak to be alone anymore. The alley behind Il Cuore Nero was a slit of darkness between two brick giants. The rain had followed me downtown, turning the pavement slick and reflecting the angry red of a neon sign from the next street over. The air smelled of wet dumpsters and, faintly, of the expensive, sugary perfume that clung to the club's clientele. Kara had promised the side delivery door would be unlocked. She had promised Luca was not here. I put my hand on the cold steel door, my fingers, numb from the bus ride, fumbled with the handle. It was heavy, but it opened with a well-oiled, expensive shush. I stepped inside, and the world changed. The chaotic noise of the city was instantly gone, replaced by the deep, muffled thump-thump-thump of a bass line. The alley's stench gave way to the smells of top-shelf whiskey, old leather, and something warm and spicy I associated with the holidays. The hallway was dimly lit, carpeted in a plush, blood-red velvet that absorbed my footsteps. Kara lied. I knew it the second I pushed through the padded door into the main club. I knew it before I even saw him. The air was different. It was charged, electric. All the oxygen sucked into one corner of the room. The club was dark, decadent, a sea of shadows and flickering candlelight. Kara was behind the bar, her red hair a beacon, but she was not looking at me. She was frozen, her eyes fixed on the darkest booth, the one tucked away in the back corner, elevated just slightly above the rest. And in that booth, he sat. Luca. He was not the man from my memories, the one who had whispered about his mother with his head in my lap. This was the man who owned the city. He was leaning forward, his elbows on the polished table, a single glass of amber liquid in front of him. He was in a suit, dark and perfect, no tie. His dark hair was a little longer than I remembered. He was not looking at anyone else. He was staring directly at me. His expression was not one of surprise. It was not anger. It was nothing. He was perfectly, terrifyingly still, unreadable, the predator who has just watched the prey walk calmly, stupidly, into its den. My breath hitched. My first instinct, the one I had lived by for 5 months, screamed at me to run, turn around, go back out the steel door, and disappear into the rain. But I could not move. His gaze held me, pinned me in place from across the room. He did not stand, he did not gesture. He just tilted his head, a silent command. Come here. The walk across that room was the longest of my life. The music seemed to fade. The laughter of the patrons blurred into a dull roar. Every step, I felt his eyes on me, cataloging, dissecting. I clutched the strap of my cheap purse, my knuckles white. I could feel the stiff rectangle of the manila envelope in my coat pocket, heavy as a brick against my ribs. I stopped a few feet from his table. His guards, 2 mountains in suits, stood nearby. They, too, were watching me. "Hello, Luca," I whispered. My voice was a reedy, pathetic thing. He did not answer, just looked at me. His dark eyes raked over my face, my cheap coat, my damp hair. It was not a look of desire. It was an assessment. "Sit," he said. His voice was just as I remembered, low, gravelly, a sound that bypassed my ears and went straight to my spine. I did not sit. I was here to see Kara. A flicker of something, impatience, perhaps, crossed his face. He stood. He was taller than I remembered, or maybe I was just smaller now. He moved from the booth in one fluid, silent motion. He did not come to me. He came for me. He reached me in 2 strides, his hand closed around my upper arm. His grip was not violent, but it was absolute. It was steel. Not here. He did not pull me. He guided me, turning me around and steering me toward a dark hallway I had never seen. It was the same as being dragged, but with the terrifying politeness of a man who did not need to use force. He did not care what I wanted. "Luca, stop," I protested, my feet stumbling on the thick carpet. "You do not understand. I needed to see a friend." He pushed open a heavy oak door and guided me inside. It was an office, his office, dark wood, leather chairs, a massive desk. The only light came from a green banker's lamp, casting the room in shadows. The windows behind him were black, showing nothing but the reflection of the room. The silence in here was total. He let go of my arm and shut the door. The click of the lock was the loudest sound I had ever heard. He turned to face me. He did not move closer. He just stood by the door, watching me. "You have been gone," he stated. It was not a question. 5 months, 3 weeks, 4 days. My stomach lurched. He had been counting. "I had to go," I whispered, backing away until my legs hit the edge of his desk. "Why?" His voice was cold. It was the voice from that last night, the voice that said, "It is not my blood. Why are you here, Juliet? Why now?" "I told you. Kara, I was just passing through. I missed her." The lie sounded thin and stupid even to my own ears. "Passing through?" He took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. He was searching my face, my body, and I knew what he was seeing. I had seen it in the mirror every day. I was paler. I was thinner in the face, dark circles under my eyes from the exhaustion and the fear. I was tired. I was so tired. "You are lying," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You look sick. Are you in trouble? Do you need money?" "No," I said too quickly. "I do not need anything from you. I am fine." "You are not fine." He was in front of me now, so close I could smell the faint, clean scent of his soap and the sharp tang of his whiskey. "You are shaking. You ran from me, and now you show up in my club, looking like a ghost. Talk, now." His intensity was suffocating. He was not yelling. He was worse. He was calm, demanding answers I could not give him. The room was spinning. The panic I had felt in the alley, the panic from the hotel, it was all rushing back, choking me. "I cannot do this," I stammered, my eyes filling with tears, blurring his face into a dark, imposing shape. "I should not have come. It was a mistake. I have to go." I tried to push past him. He did not move, but I fumbled. my shoulder bumping his chest. My cheap, worn-out purse slipped from my grasp. It hit the floor with a soft, pathetic thud. It was not a dramatic spill, just my wallet, a tube of lip balm, my apartment keys, and the manila envelope. It landed face up on the dark Persian rug. We both froze. I stared at it, my blood turning to ice. I could see my own handwriting, shaky and desperate, illuminated in the green lamplight. Luca Romano. I lunged for it, but he was faster. He bent, his movements impossibly graceful, and picked it up. He held it, confusion warring with suspicion on his face. He looked from the envelope to me, then back to the envelope. "What is this?" he asked. His voice was tight. "It is nothing," I said, my voice strangled. "It is private. Give it to me. Please, Luca." He ignored me. His thumb grazed the name he had seen on 1,000 legal documents, 1,000 checks, 1,000 threats. His name, written by my hand. He tore the seal. My heart stopped. "No, do not." He pulled out the flimsy, grainy, black and white picture. He held it up to the light. He stared at it for a long second. His head tilted. He was not a doctor. He would not understand the smudge. But then he saw the text printed at the top, the date, the name of the clinic, the one across town, and my fake name, Jenna Martin. He looked at me. His face was a mask of stone. I could not read the storm gathering in his dark eyes. He looked back at the picture. He looked at the curve of my stomach, hidden beneath my bulky coat. He looked at my face, where the tears were now openly streaming. His hand, the one holding the ultrasound, lowered slowly. He whispered it, a single breath of sound, not even meant for me. It was for himself, a dawning, world-altering realization. "That's our child." The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. The dam broke. I collapsed. I did not faint, but my legs gave out. I sank onto the edge of the desk, my face in my hands, and I sobbed, a raw, ugly, guttural sound of 5 months of terror. "Juliet!" His voice was different now. Not cold, not confused. It was sharp, urgent. He was on one knee in front of me, his hand on my arm. "Juliet, look at me." "I am sorry," I choked out, the words tearing from my throat. "I'm so sorry. I did not know what else to do." "When?" he demanded. "I found out after I left, I swear. I would not have." "When is it due?" "About 4 more months. Late February, I think." He closed his eyes. A muscle in his jaw clenched so hard I thought it would break. He rose to his feet, not taking his eyes off me. He was not confused anymore. He was furious. "I am sorry," I whispered again, terrified of this new, cold rage. "I was going to tell you, I was scared." "Scared?" he repeated. His voice was low, but it vibrated with a contained violence that was more frightening than any shout. "You were scared." He turned away from me, pacing once, twice, a panther in a cage. He ran a hand through his hair. "You ran from me. You disappeared. You changed your name." He looked at the ultrasound picture again. "Jenna Martin. Jenna Martin. You took my child." "And you became Jenna Martin?" "I had to," I cried, finally finding my voice, finding the anger beneath my fear. "I had to protect him, or her. I do not even know what it is." "Protect it from me?" "From this." I gestured around the opulent office, at the locked door. "From your world. Luca, I saw you that last night, the blood on your cuff. You told me it was not yours. Do you think I am stupid? Do you think I wanted that for my baby? To be born into a world where that is normal? Where men carry guns and settle arguments in alleys?" I was on my feet now, tears streaming down my face, my hands clenched. I grew up with nothing, Luca. But at least I grew up safe. I was not going to bring a child into a war. I was not going to make him a target, or a pawn. I was protecting him from Vito Mancini, from all of it. I heard men at my job talking about him, about a war. You think I want my baby near that? Where did you hear that? He asked. his rage momentarily eclipsed by sharp, cold focus. At the hotel, the job I got as a maid, because I had no money. I was screaming now. I have been living in a cheap apartment, terrified every second of every day. I have been working 2 jobs, scrubbing toilets and worrying about how I am going to pay for a doctor. I have been alone. I have been so alone and so scared. The fight went out of me. I leaned back against the desk, my hands moving to my stomach, a gesture I had not even realized was a habit. I ran to keep my baby safe, and I would do it again. The silence in the room was absolute. Luca stood by the window, his back to me. His shoulders were rigid. I thought he was going to tell me to get out, that I was trash, that I had no right. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick, almost unrecognizable. "You have been alone," he said, not turning around. "You have been scrubbing floors. You have been scared." He turned, and the fury I had seen was gone. Or, no, it was not gone, it was just aimed in a different direction. His face was pale, his eyes were not cold, they were burning. It was the most terrifying expression I had ever seen. It was the look of a man who was about to burn the world to the ground. "He's not angry at me?" I realized with a jolt. "He's not angry at me at all." He is furious, I thought, that I was in danger, that I was unprotected. "You have been carrying my child," he whispered, "for 5 months, alone, scared, hiding, while those bastards were close enough to—" He could not finish the sentence. He slammed his fist once into the solid oak of his desk. The lamp jumped. I flinched. "Luca, you are coming with me," he said. It was not a request. It was a command. "What? No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." He was in front of me, his hands on my shoulders. His grip was firm, anchoring. "Juliet, listen to me. You were right to be scared, but you were wrong to run. You did not run to safety. You ran right into the line of fire. You have been walking around this city, unprotected, with my son inside you." "I do not know if it is a son," I whispered, overwhelmed. "Yeah, it does not matter," he said, his voice raw. "It is mine, and you are mine, and I have let you be out there, alone. God, Juliet." His expression broke. For 1 second, the mask of the boss cracked, and I saw the man from the penthouse, the one who had confessed his loneliness to me. "I thought you just left. I thought you were bored. I thought—" He shook his head, the anger returning. "You are not safe here. You are not safe anywhere but with me. You are coming to a safe house. Now." "A safe house, like a prisoner?" "Like you are protected," he countered, his voice rising. "Like you are the most valuable thing in my world, which you are. You and this baby. You will have guards. You will have doctors. You will have everything. But you will not be alone, and you will not be scared. Not again." I looked into his eyes. He meant it. This was not a negotiation. My life as Jenna Martin was over. It had ended the moment I walked into this club. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, Luca." The journey was a blur. One of his guards, a man built like a refrigerator, named Sal, drove us. We sat in the back of an armored black sedan, the kind I used to see and cross the street to avoid. We sat in silence. I stared out the tinted window at the rainy city. My city, that suddenly did not feel like mine at all. Luca just stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, his hand on his knee, clenching and unclenching. The safe house was not his penthouse. It was an apartment, but it was just as high, just as luxurious. It was all white and glass and steel, but it felt sterile, unlived in. "No one knows about this place," Luca said, his voice flat as he locked the door behind us. "Sal will be outside the door. Another man is downstairs. No one gets in." I just nodded, my coat still on. I felt like a stray dog, wet and dirty, dragged into a palace. "Go," he said, gesturing to a hallway. "Shower. There are clothes in the closet, robes, whatever. I will get you food." I did as I was told. The shower was scalding hot. I stood under the water for 20 minutes, my mind blank, just trying to wash off the grime of the diner, the smell of the alley, the terror of the last few hours. I found a thick white cashmere robe in the bedroom closet and wrapped myself in it. When I came out, he was waiting. He had not gotten food. He was just standing in the middle of the dark bedroom, the lights of the city glowing far below us. "Juliet," he said, his voice soft. I stopped. The tension of the night, the fight, the confession, it all hung in the air between us. Are you really okay?" I asked, my voice small. "No," he said, his honesty a physical blow. "I am. I have never been. I do not know what I am, but I know what I have to do." He took a step toward me. I did not back away. He stopped, just inches from me. He did not touch me. He just looked down, his gaze fixed on my stomach, hidden by the thick robe. "Is it real?" he whispered, as if seeing it for the first time. It is in there." I nodded, tears welling up again. "Yes." "May I?" he asked, his voice thick. He lifted his hand, his fingers trembling slightly. I did not answer. I just took his hand, his large, calloused, dangerous hand, and placed it on my belly. His hand was so warm, it covered me completely. A sharp, ragged breath escaped him, as if he had been punched. His eyes closed. I felt it then. A tiny flutter, a small kick, right against his palm. Luca's eyes snapped open, meeting mine. The world stopped. In his gaze, I saw it all. The fury, the fear, the possessiveness, and beneath it all, a deep, aching tenderness that I thought I had imagined. The love I had tried to kill by running away. It was not dead. It was right here, in this room, rising again, stronger and more complicated than I could ever have imagined. He lifted his other hand, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw. "Juliet," he breathed. He leaned in and kissed me. It was not the hungry, possessive kiss from my memories. It was slow. It was tender. It was a kiss of absolution, of desperation, of 1,000 unsaid words. It was a promise. His mouth was soft, questioning, and I opened to him, my hands coming up to grip his shirt, holding on to him like a lifeline. He sighed against my lips, a sound of surrender, and deepened the kiss, his arm sliding around my waist, pulling me close. His hand never left my stomach. We stood there for a long time, just holding each other, our foreheads pressed together, the city glowing below. He kissed my eyelids, my tear-stained cheeks, my temple. "Mine," he whispered against my skin. "You are both mine." The next morning, I woke up alone in the massive bed, tangled in silk sheets. For a second, I thought it was a dream. The diner, the gunfire, Luca. Then I heard his voice from the living room. It was not the soft voice from last night. It was the cold, hard voice of the boss. I crept out of bed, the robe clutched around me. He was standing by the window, his back to me, a phone to his ear. He was already dressed in a fresh suit. "I do not care how," he was saying, his voice sharp. "I want her erased. The name Jenna Martin must not exist. The hotel records, the clinic, the diner, burn them, shred them, delete them. She was never there. Do you understand me? She never existed." A cold dread filled me. He hung up, sensing me. He turned. His face was hard, but it softened when he saw me. "Good morning," he said. "Who was that?" I whispered. "My security team." He walked over to me, his face grim. "You were right, Juliet. You were found. Vito Mancini's men. They traced your alias from the hotel. They know about Jenna Martin. They were asking about you, where you went." I pressed a hand to my mouth. "Oh, God, they were looking for me?" "They will not find you," he said. He reached out, his hand cupping my cheek. He looked at me with that same burning, protective intensity from last night. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, a gesture so tender it made my knees weak. "I promise you," he whispered, his eyes locked on mine. "No one will ever hurt you, or this child ever." The first week in the safe house was a lesson in silence. My old apartment had been noisy, filled with the sounds of the city, sirens, angry neighbors, the rumble of trucks. The diner had been a constant clatter of plates and shouted orders. This was silence. It was a vast white apartment high in the sky, a place of glass and cold marble. The silence was so complete it was a sound in itself, a high-pitched ringing in my ears. Sal, the mountain of a guard, stood outside my door. He was a permanent fixture, like a piece of furniture. He never spoke, just nodded when I peeked out, which I stopped doing after the second day. My new life was a gilded cage, and Luca was a ghost. He was there, and then he was not. He would leave before I woke up, and he would return long after the sun had set, his face carved from stone. I knew, without him saying it, that the hunt was on. He was hunting Vito Mancini, and Vito, somewhere out in the city, was hunting for Jenna Martin. The tension in the air was thick, an invisible, choking smoke. I would watch Luca pace the living room, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice a low, hard vibration that I could not understand but knew was dangerous. He was not the man who had held me while I cried. He was the boss, the kingpin, the man I had run from. But then, the night would settle, he would finish his calls, he would loosen his tie, he would pour 2 glasses of water, not whiskey, and hand one to me. He would sit on the plush white sofa, so far from me, and just watch me. After an hour of this crushing silence, I could not take it anymore. I moved from my chair and sat on the sofa, not next to him, but on the other end. He did not look at me. He just stared at the city lights. After a long minute, he reached across the cushions and took my hand. His hand was large, warm, and calloused. He did not say a word. He just held it, his thumb rubbed slow, absent circles on my knuckles. This became our routine. We would sit for hours in total silence, just holding hands, a guard at the door, a city of enemies below, and this man who was both my captor and my protector, holding my hand like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. I was adapting, a new doctor, a woman this time, with kind eyes and a briefcase full of equipment, came to the apartment. She did not ask about the father, she just called me Miss Moreau, and said the baby sounded strong. Food appeared, delivered by silent men who never made eye contact. Clothes, soft and new, filled the empty closets, cashmere sweaters, silk pajamas, clothes I had only ever seen in magazines. I was being kept. One evening, I was rubbing my stomach. The baby was active, a constant rolling flutter. "What is it?" Luca asked, his voice startling me. He was standing in the doorway, watching me. I think it needs, well, everything," I said, a small, awkward laugh escaping me. "I do not have a crib or, things." He just nodded, his expression unreadable. "I will handle it." I expected him to make a call, to have an assistant order a nursery full of furniture, but he did not. The next afternoon, he came home early. It was the first time I'd seen him in daylight in days. He was not wearing a suit. He was in dark jeans and a black Henley that stretched across his shoulders. His tie was gone, his hair was slightly messy, and he looked flustered. He was carrying one large, expensive-looking white bag. He put the bag on the sofa. He did not look at me. He just cleared his throat. "I went out," he said, as if this were a major announcement. You went shopping?" "You said the baby needed things." He nudged the bag with his hand. "So, I got things." He looked so completely out of his element. This man who commanded a dozen crews, standing in front of a shopping bag like it was a live bomb. A bubble of something I had not felt in months. Not fear, not sadness, but something light rose in my chest. I sat on the floor and cautiously looked inside. The first thing I pulled out was a pair of socks. They were impossibly small, pale gray, and knitted from the softest wool. I held them in the palm of my hand. They were so tiny. They said that was standard. Luca said, his voice gruff. He was pretending to look at the window. I reached back in, a blanket, the color of pale yellow, so soft it felt like spun clouds, and under that, a stuffed animal. It was a simple brown bear, with a stitched nose and small black button eyes. It was sturdy, practical. I looked at the bear. I looked at the tiny socks. I looked at this dangerous, powerful man who was pretending he was not terrified. And I smiled. It was not a small, wobbly smile. It was a real one. A smile that started in my chest and broke across my face, so wide my cheeks hurt. It was the first time I had smiled in 5 months. "You bought a bear, Luca?" I whispered. He finally looked at me. He saw my smile and the tension in his shoulders eased. Just a fraction, a small, almost invisible smile touched the corner of his own mouth. "It is practical," he muttered. I laughed, a real, actual laugh. I put the bear down and stood up. I walked over to him, and before he could move, before the boss could react, I wrapped my arms around his waist and buried my face in his chest. He was stiff. For a full 3 seconds. He was a statue. Then his arms came around me, pulling me so tight I could barely breathe. He buried his face in my hair, and I felt him inhale, a long, ragged breath. We just stood there, in the middle of the silent room, holding each other. The fear, the guards, the city, it all faded away. It was just us, just Luca. "Thank you," I whispered against his shirt. He did not say, "You are welcome," and he just held me tighter. That night, the mood shifted. The small moment of peace, the gift of the bear, had broken something open. I was changing into one of the soft sleeping shirts he had bought me. I was standing in the dim light of the bedroom, my back to the door. "Juliet." I turned, and he was standing there, watching me. His gaze was not on my face, it was on my stomach. The shirt had not covered it. My belly was bare, swollen and round, and marked with the thin, silvery pink lines that had appeared in the last few weeks. My first instinct was to pull the shirt down, to hide. I was self-conscious, ashamed of the marks, the proof of how my body was straining, breaking. He must have seen my hand move. "Do not," he said, his voice quiet. He walked toward me, his eyes never leaving my stomach. He stopped right in front of me, so close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He did not look disgusted. He did not look angry. He looked reverent. He slowly knelt in front of me. I tensed, my hands balling into fists at my sides. He placed one hand gently on my hip, his thumb grazing my skin, and then he leaned in. His lips, warm and impossibly soft, pressed against the stretch marks on the side of my belly. I gasped, my eyes squeezing shut, a tear rolled down my cheek. He kissed the marks again, a slow, deliberate press of his mouth, a gesture of pure, unadulterated worship. He looked up at me, his dark eyes intense, his hand still warm on my skin. "You are building our child," he whispered, his voice thick. This is beautiful. I am proud of you, Juliet. So proud of your body." No one had ever said they were proud of me. Not for anything. I was just a waitress, a ghost, a runner. But he was proud of me. For this. I was openly crying now, silent tears of a release so profound it left me shaking. He stood, his hands moving to cup my face, his thumbs wiping away the tears. "You are beautiful," he breathed, "all of you." He kissed me. It was not the desperate, questioning kiss from the night he found me. This was different. This was ownership. This was possession. This was a man claiming his territory. His mouth was hungry, but not rough. It was deeply emotional, a physical conversation that said everything his words could not. My hands went to his hair, my fingers tangling in the thick strands, pulling him closer. This was not enough. I needed more. I needed all of him to erase the fear, to ground me. His hands slid down my back, over my hips, his fingers digging into my skin. He lifted me as if I weighed nothing, and I wrapped my legs around his waist, my body flush against his. He carried me to the bed, never breaking the kiss. We fell onto the soft sheets, a tangle of limbs. His mouth left mine, tracing a line of fire down my jaw, my neck, to my collarbone. I arched against him, a sound, half sigh, half moan, escaping my throat. His hand, the one that had held mine in silence, was now splayed flat across my belly, a possessive, protective, gentle weight. He kissed me again, his lips brushing mine, his breath hot. "Mine," he whispered, a breathless confession against my mouth. "Yours," I breathed back, and it was the truest thing I had ever said. We moved together, a slow, deep rhythm of touch and response. It was not the frantic, stolen passion of our past. This was more physical. Yes, but it was anchored in the reality of the child between us. Every touch was gentle. Every kiss was deep. His hands trembled slightly as they moved over me, and mine clung to his shoulders, holding on tight. It was a desperate, tender, breathless confirmation that we were alive and we were in this together. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, the rain lashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city lights were a blurred watercolor of blue and gold. I was curled against his side, my head on his chest, his arm draped possessively over my waist. "What if it is a girl?" I whispered into the darkness. He was silent for a long time. I could feel the steady, slow beat of his heart beneath my ear. "Liliana," he said, his voice quiet. "After my mother." I lifted my head. This was more than a name. This was an invitation. He was sharing his past, his legacy, his mother. "Liliana," I repeated. "It is beautiful." "And a boy?" I asked. He stroked my hair. "He will have your strength," he said. "We will decide together." Together. The word hung in the air, a fragile promise. That fragile peace lasted for 3 days. 3 days of quiet hand-holding, of him kissing my belly, of us whispering names in the dark. And then the phone rang. It was a new phone, one of his secure devices. It was the only way I could talk to the outside world, though I had no one to call. Or so I thought. Luca was in the shower. The sound of the water was a distant hiss. I was in the living room, holding the stuffed bear. The phone vibrated on the coffee table. "Blocked number." My heart hammered. Only one person had the number to this phone, Luca. It vibrated again. I picked it up. "Hello? Jules?" My blood ran cold. "Kara, oh my God, Kara, how did you get this?" "Shut up. Just listen to me," she whispered. Her voice was not the warm, sharp sound I knew. It was thin, reedy, and terrified. "You have to run. Now. You have to get out of there." "What? Kara, what are you talking about? I'm safe here." You are not," she sobbed, a hysterical edge to her voice. "He knows. Jules, Vito knows. He knows Luca is hiding someone. He saw. Oh God, Jules, I did not tell him. I swear." "Kara, slow down. What did he see?" "The club. He had cameras. Not just the security, hidden ones. He saw you. That night, he saw you. He saw you hugging Luca." The floor dropped out from under me. The hug. That first night. He has been threatening my family. Jules," she cried. "My brother. He knows where my brother works. He said he knows Luca's hiding you. And if I did not find a way to warn you, to tell you to run, he would... You have to go. He's going to find you. Juliet. He's going to use you to get to Luca. You and the baby. Run." The bathroom door opened. Luca walked out, a towel slung low on his hips, his hair wet, water dripping onto his shoulders. He saw my face. He saw the phone in my hand. He did not ask. He knew. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his face a mask of stone, and took the phone from my hand. "Who is this, Seeds?" he barked into it. I watched, frozen as his face changed. The blood drained from it, the muscle in his jaw clenched. His eyes fixed on me, turned from concern to a flat, cold, terrifying stillness. "You stay put," he said into the phone, his voice a low, lethal command. "Do not move. Do not talk to anyone. I will handle it." He hung up. He did not throw the phone. He placed it calmly on the table. "Luca," I whispered, my hand outstretched. She is scared. He's threatening her. We have to help her." He did not look at me. He was already moving, walking to the intercom by the door. He pressed the button. "Sal, get Marco. Full sweep. Now. Electronics. Everything. This apartment is compromised." He turned back to me. All the warmth from the night before, all the tenderness, the man who had kissed my stretch marks and whispered his mother's name. He was gone. In his place was the kingpin. "Luca, what is happening?" I said, my voice trembling. He took a step back, creating a physical distance between us. His eyes were cold, not at me, but because of me. The fear had finally overtaken him. "You were right to be scared," he said, his voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "But you brought this to my door." "No, I did not know." "He knows," Luca snarled, cutting me off. "He was not talking to me. He was talking to the world. He knows. He is threatening us. He is threatening my child." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were the eyes of a stranger, the eyes of a man who was terrified. And when Luca Romano was terrified, he became lethal. "You are not to leave this room," he commanded. "Do not answer any more calls. Do not touch anything. We are moving. Now." He turned his back on me, striding into the bedroom. I heard him barking orders into another phone, his voice hard and fast. I stood alone in the silent living room, clutching the small, practical bear. The silence was back, but it was not peaceful anymore. It was the silence of a tomb. He was cold, he was distant, and I was trapped in the cage with the lion, just as the hunters were finding the bars. We moved, not back to the white-on-white sterile apartment, but to his real home, the penthouse, the glass tower I had run from, the one that held all our memories, was now our fortress. It was familiar, but everything was wrong. The silence was heavier here, reinforced. Sal, my previous guard, was now just one of many. There were 2 men at the elevator, one at the service entrance, and Sal, silent as stone, outside the bedroom door. And Luca was gone. Not physically. He was here. He slept in the same bed, but he slept on the far edge, his back to me, a rigid line of muscle and tension. He was in the apartment, but he was lost in a fog of war. He spent his days in his office, the door closed, his voice a low, angry murmur of calls. When he emerged, his eyes were hard. He looked at the guards. He looked at the windows. He looked at my stomach. But he did not look at me. The man who had kissed my stretch marks, who had whispered his mother's name in the dark, had vanished. In his place was the kingpin, cold and absolute, and I was trapped. This was not a physical prison. It was an emotional one. This was the coldness I had always feared, my entire life. I had watched my mother wait for a man who had stopped seeing her. My father had not left with a suitcase and a dramatic slam of the door. He had just evaporated. He had sat at the same dinner table, but his eyes were vacant, his touch, when it happened at all, was accidental, impersonal. He had turned cold, and my mother had withered. Now, I saw the same shadow falling over Luca. He was providing for me, the finest foods, the softest clothes, a team of doctors on call, but he was not here. He was treating me like an asset, a precious thing to be locked in a vault, and I was terrified. Terrified that once the baby was born, once the asset was secured, he would have no more use for me. I would become a fixture in his penthouse, a ghost in a gilded cage, just like my mother. I lasted 3 days in this new Cold War. On the 4th night, I could not breathe. The silence was too loud. He was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of water in his hand, staring down at the city lights. He had not spoken to me in hours. "You are not here," I whispered. He did not turn. I'm right here, Juliet. I am not leaving." "You are not," I said, my voice rising, shaky. I stood up from the sofa, my hands clenching at my sides. "You are in this room, but you are a million miles away. You do not talk to me. You do not touch me. You do not look at me. Not at my face." He turned slowly. His face was a mask of exhaustion. "My entire operation is focused on one thing. Keeping you breathing, keeping this family safe. What else do you want from me?" "I want you," I cried, the tears I had been fighting finally breaking free. "I do not want the guards or the food or this glass tower. I want the man who held my hand in the safe house, the man who bought a stupid stuffed bear." "That man cannot protect you," he said, his voice hard. "He is the only one who can." I took a step closer, my hand unconsciously moving to my belly. "This man, this boss, you are just as dangerous as Vito. You are scaring me just as much as he is." His face tightened. "That is ridiculous." "Is it?" I was sobbing now, the deep, gut-wrenching sobs of my deepest fear. "I know this. I have seen this before. Luca, I lived this." "What are you talking about?" "My father," I choked out. "He did not just leave. He stayed, but he turned cold. He stopped looking at my mother. He stopped talking to her. He looked right through her, like she was a ghost, like she was a piece of furniture he was tired of, and she just faded. She just gave up." "Is that me, Luca? Is that what I am? Am I just the woman who is carrying your child, and once the baby is here, once you have your heir, do you just stop? Do I just fade?" His face shattered. The boss mask did not just crack, it disintegrated. He looked stunned, as if I had physically struck him. "Juliet," he breathed, his voice raw. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hands coming up to cup my face. He was not gentle, his grip was desperate, his thumbs wiping at my tears. No, is that what you think? That you are disposable?" "I do not know what to think," I sobbed, leaning into his touch, hating myself for my weakness. "Look at me," he commanded. He waited until my eyes met his. His were dark, intense, and full of a burning pain that mirrored my own. "I am not that man. You are not your mother. This is not that. I am terrified, Juliet. I have never been. I do not know how to do this. I only know how to fight, how to protect, and I am so focused on the threat. I did not see I was hurting you." He pulled me against him, his arms wrapping around me. One hand splayed protectively over my back, the other cradling my head, pressing my face into his shoulder. "I am not him," he whispered, his lips against my hair. "I swear to you, I am not that man. I am here. I am right here." We stood there, and I cried into his shirt. He just held me, his own body rigid with a tension that was not anger, but a profound, aching fear. The fragile peace that confession bought us was shattered the very next night. The fear was still there. The threat was still real. My confession had brought him back, but it had not made the world safer. He was in his office, the door ajar. I heard his voice, and it was the voice I hated. It was cold, precise, and laced with violence. "I do not care what it costs," he snapped into the phone. "This was a breach, a clear breach. He knew where the car was. How? How did he know? I want the leak found. I want him handled. I want it done by morning. Do you understand me? By morning." He slammed the phone down. I was standing in the hallway, my blood like ice. A breach. He knew where the car was. My car. The one that was supposed to take me to my next prenatal appointment. This was it. This was the man I had run from. The one who ordered handling. I turned to walk away, to go back to the bedroom, to hide. "Juliet." His voice stopped me. I turned back. He was standing in the doorway of his office, his face dark. his suit jacket off, his sleeves rolled up. He looked like a general who had just lost a battle. "You heard that," he said. "I heard you order someone handled," I whispered, my hands shaking. "Oh, si. He was a guard. He sold us," Luca said, his voice flat. "He told Vito's men our security protocols. He gave them the route to your doctor's office. He put a price on your head, Juliet, on our child's head." "So you are going to kill him," I stated, my voice dead. "I'm going to protect my family," he snarled. "There is no difference, I shouted, the dam of my fear breaking into a sudden, hot rage. "This is it. This is what I ran from. This is the man who had blood on his cuff. You swore to me. You swore you were not that man, but you are. You are just a killer, a monster, and I am trapped here with you." "You are safe here with me," he roared back, his own control snapping. He took a step toward me, his hand raised, not to hit me, but in sheer, frustrated rage. "Where else would you go? Back to your diner? Back to Jenna Martin? Vito is waiting for that. He's waiting for you to be that stupid, to be alone, so he can take you, so he can cut my child out of you and leave you in a dumpster. Is that what you want?" His words hit me like a physical blow. "No. I'm doing what I have to do," he yelled. "And I cannot live like this," I screamed, backing away. I cannot bring a baby into this hate. I will not. I am leaving." It was a bluff, a desperate, terrified, childish bluff. I turned and grabbed the soft cashmere coat he had bought me from the closet, the symbol of my prison. "Juliet, do not be a fool," he warned, his voice low and dangerous. "I would rather be a fool and be free than be your protected property." I turned, my hand on the doorknob of the penthouse door. Sal was not there. Luca must have moved him. I fumbled with the complex lock. "Juliet, stop it. You are not leaving." "Watch me," I cried, twisting the deadbolt. And then a pain. It was not a cramp. It was a white-hot, sharp, crippling vice that seized my entire lower body. It stole my breath. It was so sudden, so violent, that my vision blurred. "Ah!" A sharp choke sound left my lips. I doubled over, my hands flying to my stomach. The coat slipped from my fingers. "Juliet?" His voice changed. In 1 second, the rage, the argument, the boss, it all evaporated. It was just Luca. And he was terrified. "What is it? What is wrong?" It hurts," I gasped, leaning against the wall, trying to breathe through it. "Luca, it is sharp. It is really sharp." He was across the room before I finished the sentence. He did not ask questions. He did not hesitate. The panic, the sheer primal terror on his face was more real than any anger he had ever shown. Okay, we are going," he said, his voice high, almost cracking. He scooped me into his arms. I cried out, both in pain and surprise. He held me tightly against his chest, as if I were a child. "Sal," he roared, kicking the door open. Sal was there, at the elevator bank, and his face went white. Get the car now! Call doctor! Evans, tell her we are coming. Tell her it is the baby." He carried me into the elevator, his arms shaking. Or maybe I was. He did not put me down. He just held me, his face buried in my hair, his body shielding me, as if the elevator itself was a threat. "It is okay," he whispered, his voice frantic. "It is okay, Mia Cara, just breathe. I have got you. It is going to be okay. Just breathe." The drive was a blur of red lights and the sound of Luca's voice, a constant, desperate litany of promises. He held my hand so tightly I thought my bones would crack. The clinic was a private, sterile, white place. Doctor. Evans was waiting. They rushed me into a room. Luca never let go of my hand, not when they put the monitor on my stomach, not when they took my blood. He stood by the bed, a silent, pale, terrified statue, his eyes locked on my face. "After an eternity, Doctor." Evans pulled the ultrasound wand away and sighed, a small smile on her face. "Well," she said, "the good news is you are not in labor." Luca sagged, his free hand gripping the bed rail. What was it?" I whispered, my body still trembling from the aftershocks. "A scare," the doctor said, her voice kind but firm. "A very bad one. You are severely dehydrated, Juliet, and you are exhausted. Your blood pressure is high. The stress. Your body is reacting to the stress." Those were Braxton Hicks contractions, but they were brought on by a perfect storm of panic and dehydration. You have to rest. You have to calm down. She looked pointedly at Luca. "Both of you." He just nodded, his throat working. They kept me overnight for observation. Luca did not leave. He refused the comfortable chair the nurse offered. He sat on the small, hard stool by my bedside, his suit jacket gone, his tie pulled loose. He just stayed. He held my hand. He did not sleep. Every time I drifted off and woke again, his dark, shadowed eyes were on me. At dawn, the gray, sterile light of the clinic filled the room. I woke, but I kept my eyes closed. I felt him move. He stood up, stretching his back. He did not walk away. He just stood over me. I felt the warmth of his hand, large and gentle, settle on my stomach, on top of the thin blanket. He was silent for a long time. I could hear him breathing, a slow, unsteady rhythm. Then he spoke. His voice was a raw whisper. "Not meant for me. It was meant for the baby. You stay in there," he murmured, his thumb rubbing a slow circle on my belly. "You hear me? You stay safe. Your mother, she is scared. She is so scared, and I did that. I scared her." He paused, his breath hitching. I am so focused on the world. I scared her, but I am going to fix it. I swear to you. I am going to fix this. I am not him. I am not my father. I will not be that man." My eyes still closed, filled with tears. This was the truth. This was the man who had knelt on the floor and kissed my skin. This was the man I loved. When we got back to the penthouse the next morning, the tension was gone. The argument was a distant, painful memory. Luca was quiet, but it was not the cold, distant quiet from before. It was a gentle, protective silence. He made me sit on the sofa, put a blanket over my legs, and brought me a tall glass of water. He sat in the chair opposite me, not far, just respectful. "My mother," he said, his voice quiet. I looked at him, surprised. You said you were afraid I would be like your father," he said, staring at his hands. I am terrified of being like mine." He looked at me, his eyes dark and vulnerable. "My mother, Liliana, she did not just die young, she faded, just like you said. My father was busy. He was running the family. He was me. He did not see that she was sad, that she was drowning. He was careless with her, and she took too many pills one night. They called it an accident." He swallowed, his jaw tight. "It was not an accident. I was 10 years old. I found her." "Oh, Luca," I breathed, my hand covering my mouth. "I swore on her grave," he said, his voice raw, "that I would never be that careless, that I would never let someone I loved fade, that I would never be so busy protecting my legacy that I lost my family. And last night, in that hospital, I saw you, and I was doing it. I was doing the exact same thing." He stood up and knelt in front of me, just as he had done before. He took my hands. "I am not that man. Juliet, I will not be." "I know," I whispered, tears running down my cheeks. "I heard you. This morning, at the hospital." His expression faltered, a deep, painful understanding passing between us. This world I am in," he said. "I cannot ask you to marry me, not like this. To marry me is to sentence you to this life. It is a cage. I am already in the cage. Luca, I said softly. Then, I want to give you the seal, he said. The Romano seal. It is not. It is not a ring. It is more than that. It is a shield. It is an announcement. It marks you. It marks our child. It tells every man I know. Vito, my capos, the entire commission, that you are part of me, that to touch you, to even look at you, is to declare war on me. It is not a proposal of marriage. It is a proposal of protection, of legacy. I looked into his eyes. This was the ultimate chain, the final lock, but it was also the ultimate promise. He was not locking me in. He was locking the world out. I thought of his hand on my stomach, of his raw whisper in the dawn. For now, I said, my voice shaking. Yes, for now. A profound relief washed over his face. He kissed my hands, a long, reverent press of his lips. The next few days were quiet. Luca was still the boss, but he was my Luca again. He held my hand. He talked to the baby. He worked, but he did his work with the office door open. 2 days later, Sal came in, his face grim. Boss, we got it. Intel from one of Vito's men. He's planning to hit the next prenatal appointment. The one on Friday, he knows. He knows about Dr. Evans's private clinic. He's planning an abduction. I froze. That was my appointment. Luca did not panic. He did not yell. A cold, slow, dangerous smile touched his lips. Good, he said quietly. He is predictable, and he is stupid. He looked at Sal. We are not canceling the appointment. In fact, we are going to leak that we are moving it. Tell my cousin, the one with the big mouth, that I am worried, and I am sending her to St. Jude's clinic across town, a decoy. Send the armored van, send 2 guards. Let Vito see it. Let him take the bait. And Miss Moreau, Sal asked. She is not going anywhere, Luca said, his eyes like black ice. She is staying right here. I am going to St. Jude's. I am going to be waiting for him. He was setting a trap. That afternoon, while Luca was deep in his planning, there was a soft knock on the penthouse door. I tensed. Sal opened it. A small, terrified figure was standing there. Kara, I breathed. She looked broken. She was pale, her eyes red and swollen. She looked like she had not slept in a week. She stumbled into the room, and the moment she saw me, she collapsed. She fell to her knees, her hands covering her face, her shoulders shaking. Oh God, Jules, I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I did not tell him. I swear. He threatened my brother. He was going to kill him. And I did not feel anger. I just felt a profound, aching sadness. I knelt, wincing at the pull in my stomach, and wrapped my arms around her. Shh, it is okay, I whispered, holding her as she cried. You are here. You are safe. It is okay. He made me, she choked out, clutching my shirt. He was going to, and I could not. I am so sorry. How did you get here? I asked, helping her up, leading her to the sofa. She wiped her eyes, her breath catching. Luca, she whispered, her voice full of awe. His men, they found me. I thought they were going to hurt me, but they moved my family, Jules. They put my brother and my mom on a plane to Florida, to Disney World. They sent them. And then Luca called me. He called you? He said, Vito is handled. You are safe. Now go. She needs her friend. I stared at her, my heart swelling so tight I thought it would burst. He had not just protected me. He had protected my friend. He had protected her family. He had known, without me even asking, that I needed her. I held her hand, and we both cried, tears of fear, of guilt, and of a strange, fragile, terrible relief. We were 2 women, trapped in a fortress, but for the first time in a very long time, I was not alone. The penthouse was a silent tomb, high above a city that had become a war zone. Kara and I sat on the plush white sofa. She was curled into a ball, her red-rimmed eyes staring at nothing, still wrapped in the shock of her rescue. I was rigid, my hands folded over the tight drum of my stomach. Every 5 minutes I would look at the clock. 7:08. He had left at 5. Just before dusk, he had kissed me, a hard, brief press of his lips that was not about affection, but about branding. Stay with her, he had ordered me, nodding at Kara. Lock this door. Do not open it for anyone but me. Now, he was out there, in the city, hunting, or being hunted. Kara and I did not speak. There was nothing to say. She had been saved. Her family spirited away to safety by the very man she had been forced to betray. I had been secured. My friend returned to me as a gift, a gesture of his absolute control. He had known I needed her. He had also known I needed to see his power. The silence was broken by the quiet ding of the private elevator. Kara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. I just squeezed my eyes shut, my heart stopping. Please, please, please. I heard the heavy-duty lock on the penthouse door click, a complex series of tumblers that Luca alone could operate. The door swung open. He stood in the doorway, framed by the soft light of the hall. He was not the boss. He was not the kingpin. He was a man who had walked through hell. His suit, a dark charcoal gray that I knew cost more than my entire year's salary at the diner, was torn at the shoulder. His white shirt was ripped open at the collar, and it was stained. A dark, ugly, wet crimson stain was spreading from a gash on his left forearm. But it was his face. He was pale, a sickly, ashen color under his olive skin. His dark hair was damp with sweat. His hands, hanging at his sides, were trembling. Not a slight shake, but a visible, uncontrollable tremor. He was breathing hard, his chest heaving. And his eyes were haunted. They were black, hollow, and filled with a terrifying, raw shock. "Luca," I breathed. It was not a name, it was a prayer. He took one step into the room and sagged, leaning against the door frame as if his legs could no longer hold him. I was moving before I even registered the thought. I ran to him, my hands fluttering, not knowing where to land, on his chest, on his arm. Oh God, are you shot?" I whispered, my eyes fixed on the blood. It is not mine," he stammered, his voice thick. He tried to straighten up, to become the boss again, but he failed. A graze, glass. Kara, finally snapping out of her terror, ran to the pristine white bathroom. I heard her fumbling, opening cabinets. I put my hand on his chest, on the solid wall of muscle beneath his ruined shirt. His heart was hammering, a wild, frantic bird trapped in his ribs. "Julie," I whispered. "Juliet, Shh, I said. I was not a nurse. I was not a doctor. I was just the woman who loved him. I put my arm around his waist, taking some of his weight, and guided him to the sofa. He sank onto the white cushions, leaving a smear of dirt and blood. Kara ran back, her hands full, a bottle of peroxide, a roll of white gauze, a clean towel. She put them on the coffee table, her hands shaking so badly the bottle rattled. I will get water," she mumbled, and fled to the kitchen, giving us space. I knelt in front of him. My own hands were trembling now, but I forced them to be steady. I took the clean towel and gently, so gently, pressed it to his forearm. The gash was ugly, about 3 inches long, deep and littered with glittering shards of what looked like a car window. He hissed, a sharp intake of breath, but he did not pull away. I did not speak. I just worked. I poured the peroxide, flushing the wound. He flinched, his jaw clenching, but his eyes never left my face. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I was not sobbing. I was not making a sound. The tears just fell. They fell onto my hands, onto his arm, mixing with the blood. I was breaking down, but it was a quiet, internal collapse. All my fear, All the weeks of tension, the terror of the last 2 hours, it was all coming out in this silent, scalding flood. "Juliet," he whispered, his voice raw. He reached with his good hand, his fingers trembling, and caught a tear on my cheek with his thumb. "Do not. I am fine." "What happened?" I whispered, my voice breaking. I wrapped the gauze around his arm, my movements clumsy but tight. The trap. Did it work? "It worked," he said, his voice hollow. He stared at the wall, seeing something I could not. He came, just like we knew he would, the decoy van. He hit it, hard, at the parking garage at St. Jude's. "And we were waiting," he said, his voice flat. "It was loud, fast. They were not expecting us. They were expecting a driver and 2 guards. They got my men, 20 of them." He described it, but his words were clipped. He was not telling me about the violence. He was telling me about the result, the sound of gunfire. He said, echoing off the concrete, so loud it was a physical weight, the smell of cordite and gasoline, the chaos. "I had him," Lucas snarled, the boss slipping back into his voice for a second. "I had him, Juliet, cornered. His men were handled. It was just him. I had my gun on him." He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his head in his good hand. I told him, you come near her again. You come near my family, and you die screaming." I told him. You let him go?" I whispered, my stomach twisting. "Why?" "He was wounded," Lucas said, his voice thick with a self-loathing I had never heard, a shot to the shoulder. He was on the ground. He was beat, but he looked up at me, and he smiled. "Juliet." A cold dread, colder than any I had yet felt, washed over me. "What did he say, Luca?" Luca lifted his head. His haunted eyes met mine. He said, "You think this is about you. You think she is just your secret." He was bleeding, and he was laughing. He said, "I do not need to take her, you stupid bastard. I just need to tell them. The commissioner, the men in Naples, the men in Chicago. I will tell them all that Luca Romano, the great boss, has a weakness, a child, an heir. I will put a target on her back so big, every gun in the world will be pointed at her. You cannot kill me, Romano, because the moment you do, the letter goes out, and she becomes the most valuable and the most hunted woman in the world." I stopped breathing. This was not about Vito anymore. This was not about one rival. Vito had not just created a threat, he had created a bomb, and he was holding the detonator. He escaped?" I whispered. "He got away," Luca confirmed, his voice dead. "Wounded, but he got away, and the threat is real. He's not bluffing, he will do it." I stared at him, the man who had promised to protect me, the man who had sworn no one would ever hurt me, and in one night his enemy had outmaneuvered him, checkmated him, and put a death sentence on me and my unborn child. I finished wrapping his arm. I did not say, "It is okay." I did not say, "We will be fine." I just stood up, my hands still covered in his blood. I looked at him, this powerful, broken man, and I felt nothing. Not fear, not anger, just a vast, empty, cold surrender. "Go," I said, my voice as hollow as his. "What?" "Kara's in the kitchen. Go, wash your face. I will clean this up." He looked at me, searching my face, expecting, I do not know what, hysterics? An argument? He found nothing but emptiness. He nodded, once, and stood. He was unsteady on his feet. He walked to the bathroom, leaving me alone with the bloody towel and the empty peroxide bottle. I did not clean it up. I walked past Kara, who was standing by the sink, her face white. I went into the bedroom. I locked the door. He came in 10 minutes later. He had a key. I was standing by the window, my arms wrapped around my stomach, just watching the city. He had changed. He was in a black t-shirt and soft gray sweatpants. His arm was bandaged. His hair was wet. He looked young. He did not speak. He just came up behind me. He did not touch me. He just stood there, his body heat a palpable force at my back. "I failed you," he whispered. "Yes," I said. The honesty of it hung in the air. "He will not stop," I said, not a question. "No, he will not stop. And now, he has an army, the entire network. They will all want a piece of my legacy." He had backed me into a corner. He had backed us into a corner. There was no running. There was no hiding. The only safe place on earth was the very center of the storm. It was him. I turned around, slowly. I looked at his face, at the exhaustion in his eyes, at the slight tremble still in his hands. He was not a god. He was not a king. He was just a man who was in over his head, a man who was terrified, a man who was bleeding. And I loved him. My surrender was not to the fear. It was to him. It was to us. I put my hands on his chest. His heart was still beating too fast. "You are trembling," I whispered. I cannot stop," he admitted, his voice raw, the shock, the adrenaline. I saw him smile, Juliet, and all I could see was you, bleeding. "I am right here," I said. "I am not bleeding. I am right here." I rose on my toes and I kissed him. It was not a kiss of comfort. It was a kiss of total, absolute surrender. It was hungry. It was desperate. It was a physical, primal need to prove we were still alive. My mouth crushed against his, and he groaned, a low, broken sound. His arms came around me, his bandaged one and his good one, and he pulled me so tightly against him. I was lifted off my feet, my legs wrapped around his waist, not in seduction, but in desperation, anchoring myself to him. He was the only solid thing in a world that was dissolving into fire. His hands were in my hair, gripping me. His mouth deck, his mouth never parted from mine. This was not a kiss. It was a vow. It was a promise that if we were going to go down, we were going down together. It was a raw, primal claim. "You are mine, I am yours, and to hell with the rest of the world." He carried me to the bed, his mouth never leaving mine. We fell onto the sheets, a tangle of limbs, a frantic mess of need. This was not the gentle, slow lovemaking of before. This was not about whispering names. This was a battle against the fear, against the world, against Vito. His hands were everywhere, but they were trembling. His touch was hungry, but it was also reverent. He kissed my face, my neck, my shoulders, his mouth hot and desperate. "Mine," he whispered over and over, like a prayer. "Mine, mine, mine." I clung to him, my nails digging into his shoulders. I met his hunger with my own, a fierce, desperate need to feel him, to feel life. We came together in a rush of heat and a clash of bodies, a silent scream of defiance against the dark. It was the only answer we had left. Afterward, we lay in the dark, our limbs tangled, the sheets soaked, our bodies slick with sweat. His chest heaved beneath my ear. The only sound in the room was our breathing, harsh and ragged, slowly returning to normal. I was not afraid anymore. I was not anything. I was just his. He was quiet for a long time, his good hand no longer trembling, stroked my hair, his touch infinitely gentle now. "I promised you a seal," he said, his voice quiet, almost a rumble in his chest. He moved, slightly, reaching for the nightstand. I heard a small click. He pulled his hand back. In his palm was a small, black velvet box. My heart did not leap. It just watched. This was not a proposal. This was the fulfillment of a contract. He did not give me the box. He opened it. Inside, on a bed of black satin, was not a ring. It was a chain, thick and heavy, made of old, dull gold, and on it was a medallion. It was the size of a $50, heavy, ancient. Engraved on its surface was a crest, a lion rampant with a crown, the Romano family crest. I recognized it from the one carved into the stone of his fireplace. He took it out. It was heavy. He did not put it around my neck. He sat up, and he looked at me. Then he looked at my stomach, a swollen, perfect curve in the moonlight. Slowly, reverently, he took the heavy gold chain and he draped it over my belly. The cold, heavy medallion settled right over my navel. It was a brand. It was a target. It was a shield. He looked at it, lying there on my skin, over our child. "Now," he whispered, his voice thick with a dark, terrible pride. "Now the whole world knows you are mine." He leaned down and kissed the medallion. He kissed my skin. He kissed me. Later that night, I could not sleep. Luca was beside me, but his sleep was not restful. He twitched, his breathing uneasy. The tremors had returned. I slipped out of bed, pulling on one of his silk robes. I went to the desk in his office. The room was dark. Save for the glow of the city, I turned on the small green lamp. I took out a piece of his heavy, cream-colored stationery. To my child, I wrote, "I did not know if it was Liliana. I did not know if it was a boy. I do not know if you will ever read this. I do not know if I will be the one to raise you. The world we are in. It is complicated. It is dark. But I need you to know." I paused, my pen hovering. What did I need this baby to know? That you were not a mistake. You were a miracle. You were created from a love that was so strong. It was dangerous. Your father. I stopped again. What could I say about Luca? That he was a killer? That he was a kingpin? Your father is a good man. He's a protector. He's fierce, and he is strong, and he is terrified. But he loves you. He loves you so much he is willing to burn the world down to keep you safe. If you are reading this, and I am not here, it is because he failed. But know that he died trying, and know that I died loving him, and I died loving you more than anything. I folded the letter and tucked it into the envelope with the ultrasound picture. My own secret, buried inside, is the next 2 weeks were a suffocating hell. Luca became a ghost again, but this time, he did Vito not leave the penthouse. He turned it into a command center. The security doubled, then tripled. Sal was no longer just outside the door. He was in the living room, along with 2 other men I did not know. They were quiet. They were armed, and they never, ever relaxed. He had Dr. Evans, my OB, put on a retainer. She was essentially moved into an apartment 5 floors below us. She was on call, 24/7. "No more clinics," he had declared. "No more vans. No more leaving. She stays here. You come here." He had background checks run on everyone. The delivery men, the chefs, the dry cleaners. He had his men vet the nurse's doctor. Evans planned to use for the birth. He was building a sterile, protected bubble inside his glass tower. I felt like I was drowning in safety. I could not go outside. I could not open a window. The air was thick, stale, and full of fear. Luca paced. He paced from the window to his office, from his office to the bedroom, back and forth, back and forth. He was a caged lion, and I was the cub he was desperately, frantically trying to protect. The stress was a physical weight. It sat on my chest, making it hard to breathe. My back ached, a constant, dull throb. I felt heavy, too heavy. One night, I was trying to sleep. Luca was in his office, his voice a low, angry murmur. I felt it. It was not the sharp, hot pain from the clinic. It was a tightening, a deep, internal clench that started in my back and wrapped around my stomach, squeezing me like a fist. I breathed through it. It faded. 20 minutes later, it came again, harder. I sat up, my hand on my stomach. No, it is too early. It is almost a month too early. Another one. It took my breath. I gasped, a small, choked sound. The murmur from the office stopped. He was in the doorway in a second. "What?" he demanded. "What is it?" "It is. Geez, nothing," I lied. Just a cramp. You are pale, he said, walking to the bed. His eyes narrowed. I'm fine, I insisted. And then another one hit. It was not a cramp. It was a wave. It peaked, and it held me, and I could not speak. I just squeezed my eyes shut, my hand gripping the sheet, my knuckles white. That is not a cramp, he said, his voice high with panic. The boss was gone. The terrified man from the clinic was back. Juliet, tell me. It keeps coming back, I panted as the wave receded. It is like a tightening. Sal, he roared, running to the door. Get Doctor! Evans! Get her now! He ran back to me, his hands fluttering, just like they had when he was bleeding. What do you need? Water? Pillows? Luca, I said, my voice shaking. It is too early. Doctor. Evans was there in 3 minutes. She was calm, professional. She shooed Luca out of the way. She put her hands on my stomach. She checked me. Her kind face was grim. She looked up, not at me, but at Luca, who was vibrating with terror in the corner. The baby is in distress, she said, her voice flat. The stress. It is too much. She is in early labor, and it is moving fast. We cannot stop it. What does that mean? Luca asked, his voice cracking. It means, she said, standing up, that we have to deliver. The baby is premature, but its heart rate is dropping with every contraction. We have to go. We have to deliver now. Panic. Pure, undiluted chaos. Sal was yelling into a phone. Guards were swarming the hallway. The ambulance, Luca was saying. Get the ambulance to the private entrance. Clear the lobby. Clear the lobby. He was at my side, his face a mask of white terror. He scooped me up, just as he had before. I am right here, he said, his voice frantic, carrying me toward the elevator. Juliet, I am right here. You are okay. I have got you. The ride down was a blur. The elevator doors opened to the sterile white of an ambulance, parked inside the building's sterile garage. They got me on the gurney. Luca climbed in beside me. He grabbed my hand. The doors slammed shut. The siren wailed, a deafening, terrifying sound. He leaned over me, his dark eyes wide, his face pale. He held my hand in a death grip. Listen to me, he whispered, his voice desperate, as the ambulance tore through the city streets. You are not your mother. I am not my father. I am here. I am right here. I am not letting you go. I am not letting her go. Do you hear me? I have got you. I have got you both. He just kept saying it, over and over, his voice a raw, desperate promise against the scream of the siren. I have got you. I have got you. I have got you. The world dissolved into a smear of bright lights, beeping machines, and a pain so profound it had no beginning and no end. The storm outside was a distant, angry roar, a soundtrack to the war happening inside my body. One more, Juliet, you have to push. Now. Doctor, Evan's voice was a sharp, steady anchor in the chaos. I screamed, a raw, animal sound, my hands gripping the bed rails so hard my knuckles were white. I can't, I sobbed, my body spent. I can't. I am too tired. Yes, you can. Luca's voice, and he was on my other side, a solid, terrified presence. His face was pale. His dark hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. He was not wearing his suit. He was in scrubs, just like the doctors. He had not let go of my hand since we left the penthouse. Look at me, Mia Cara, he commanded, his voice raw, pleading. Look at me. I am right here. You are not your mother. I am not my father. We are doing this. You are doing this. Breathe and push. I locked my eyes with his, in their dark depths. I saw it all. His fear, his power, his desperate, ferocious love. I took a breath and I bore down, channeling every ounce of fear, rage, and love I had into one final, world-splitting effort. A new sound split the air, not my scream, not the thunder. A cry, thin, reedy, and impossibly, furiously alive. She is here, Doctor. Evans said, her voice full of a sudden, bright relief. "Oh, she is tiny, but she is here." I collapsed back against the pillows, my body shaking, tears of sheer, agonizing relief streaming into my hair. Is she okay? Is she breathing?" "She is perfect," a nurse said, and I saw a small impos request, bundle being cleaned, lungs are strong, she is just impatient. "Luca?" I whispered. He had not let go of my hand, but he was staring at the small, writhing bundle as if he had seen a ghost. His shoulders, the ones that carried the weight of the city, were shaking. "Do you want to hold her, Dad?" the nurse asked. He could not speak. He just nodded, his throat working. He let go of my hand and held out his own, the large, calloused, trembling hands that had held guns and signed orders and touched my face. The nurse placed the bundle in his arms. He looked down at the tiny, red, screaming face. He looked at the perfect miniature fingers. He looked at her and his entire world, the entire Romano Empire, tilted on its axis. She is so small," he whispered. His voice, the one that commanded armies, broke. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. I watched him, my heart swelling so tight it hurt. "What is her name?" I whispered, though I already knew. He looked at me, his eyes overflowing, the tears tracing a path down his sharp cheekbones. "Liliana," he breathed. It is Liliana." He had his daughter. He had his family. The door to the delivery room slammed open. It was not a nurse. It was Sal, his face ashen, his hand inside his jacket, on his gun. "Boss," he panted, his eyes wide with terror. "He's here. Vito, he's in the hospital. He used a dozen corrupt uniforms. They are on this floor." The world snapped back into its cold, hard focus. The tender moment evaporated, replaced by the smell of ozone, of imminent death. Luca did not panic. He did not yell. He changed. I watched it happen. The father, the man with tears on his face, vanished. In his place, in the blue hospital scrubs, stood the kingpin. His face went blank. His eyes turned to black ice. He looked at me. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. He looked at the tiny, crying baby in his arms. He kissed her, a gentle, reverent press of his lips to her downy head. "Give her to the nurse," as he ordered Sal. "Boss? Give her to the nurse," he commanded, his voice a low, lethal whisper. He transferred Liliana to the stunned nurse's arms. "Lock this door," he said to Dr. Evans. "Put every machine you have in front of it. Do not open it for any reason. Do not open it for me. You open it when the police, the real police, tell you it is clear. Do you understand?" Dr. Evans, to her credit, just nodded, her face pale but resolute. "Luca," I whispered, my hand outstretched. "Luca, no, do not leave me." He turned back to me. He put his hand on my cheek. "I am not leaving you," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "I am ending this. I have got you. I promised you. I am going to fix it." He turned to Sal. "Where?" "Parking garage. He is trying to cut the power," Sal said. Luca nodded. He did not look back. He and Sal slipped out the door, and I heard the sound of the heavy, magnetic lock clicking shut. I was alone with my newborn daughter, in a room that had become a bunker, while a war raged just outside the door. I must have passed out. The blood loss, the adrenaline, the sheer, crushing exhaustion, it all pulled me under. The sounds of the hospital, the frantic energy, the distant, muffled pops I had tried to convince myself were thunder, they all faded into a deep, dreamless black. The world that rushed back in was not one of sirens and steel. It was quiet. I woke to the gentle, rhythmic beep of a monitor. The storm was over. The rain had stopped. The room was dark, lit only by the soft, yellow glow of a single lamp in the corner. My body ached, a deep, hollow soreness, but the tension, the crippling fear, it was gone. The air in the room was still. "Juliet?" I turned my head, wincing. He was there. He was sitting in the visitor's chair, the hard, uncomfortable one. He was not in the scrubs. He was not in a bloody suit. He was in a soft, clean, dark sweater and jeans. His hair was damp, as if he had just showered. His arm, I could see, was rebandaged. And he was holding her. He was not just holding her. He was cradling her. He had her tucked against his chest, her tiny body lost in the fabric of his sweater. He was rocking, a slow, gentle, unconscious movement. She was not crying, she was asleep. He was whispering. I held my breath, listening. And she had this garden, he was whispering, his voice a low, soft rumble, his lips near the baby's ear. Just lemons, nothing but lemon trees. She used to say it was the only piece of Sicily she could keep. She was beautiful, just like you, and just as strong. He was telling our daughter about his mother. Luca, I whispered. His head snapped up. His dark eyes found mine in the dim light. A profound, bone-deep relief washed over his face. He looked shattered and whole, all at once. "You're awake," he breathed. Is it over?" I asked, my voice a dry rasp. "It is over," he said. He did not elaborate, and he did not need to. I knew, from the stillness in his face, from the absolute finality in his voice, that Vito Mancini was gone. He had not just been defeated, he had been erased. I learned later, in bits and pieces, what had happened. Vito, wounded and desperate, had made his last, mad play. He had used corrupt cops to storm the maternity ward, but Luca was waiting. His men had intercepted them. The final confrontation had happened in the concrete canyon of the parking garage. It was just the two of them. In the driving rain, Vito, cornered, bleeding, had played his last card. You cannot even protect her name," Vito had spat, clutching his shoulder. That bastard. Liliana, I will tell the world. Liliana Romano. And they will hunt her. He had threatened her by name. There was no trial. There was no mercy. Luca had ended it. A single flat sound that was swallowed by the storm. He had not looked back. He had simply gone to the penthouse, washed his enemy's blood off his hands, changed his clothes, and come back to his family. Now, he stood up, his movements slow, careful not to wake her. He walked to my bedside. She is perfect. Juliet, he whispered, his voice thick. I know, I said, my own tears starting. He looked at me. This killer, this kingpin, this man who had just executed his rival. And he was just a father, terrified and awestruck. I am so tired, I whispered. I know, he said. Go to sleep. I have got you. I am not leaving. I am right here. He sat back down in the chair, our daughter asleep on his chest, and for the first time in almost a year, I was not alone. I was not Jenna Martin. I was not a waitress. I was not a victim. I was a mother, and I had a family. I closed my eyes and I slept. I did not wake up in the city. I woke up to the smell of pine and damp earth. I was in a bed so soft I felt like I was floating. The room was not glass and steel. It was wood, warm and golden, with a high, beamed ceiling. A fire crackled in a large stone fireplace. I sat up. I was wearing a soft, silk nightgown. My body felt better. Weaker, but better. The doors to a wide balcony were open. I stood, my legs a little shaky, and walked out. The city was gone. There were no sirens, no concrete, no glass towers. I was surrounded by mountains, their peaks shrouded in a soft, white mist. Below me was a valley, a river, a vast, quiet forest. The air was so clean it hurt my lungs. It is beautiful, is not it? Luca's voice. He was standing at the other end of the balcony, a steaming mug in his hand. He was in a thick, knitted sweater. He looked peaceful. Where are we, Luca? "A place my grandfather built," he said, walking toward me. "About 3 hours north. No one knows about it. No one but my inner circle." How long have I been here?" "2 days," he said. "You slept. The doctor said it was the best thing for you. She is here. Dr. Evans and a nurse. And Liliana." He gestured inside. I saw her then. A beautiful dark wood bassinet by the fire. "She is safe?" "She is safe," he confirmed. "Vito is gone. The immediate threat on Neo is handled. The men who followed him are either gone or they have sworn fealty. It is over." I looked out at the mountains. It was over. The war was over. "Juliet." I turned. His face was serious. He did not touch me. "I promised you a seal of protection," he said. "You have it. You are a Romano. She is a Romano. No one will ever touch you again." He paused, taking a deep breath. "And now, I am offering you your freedom." I stared at him. "What?" "This life," he said, gesturing to the mountains, to the unseen guards I knew were patrolling the woods. "This is a cage, a bigger, prettier cage, but it is still a cage. I love you so much, but I will not be your father. I will not be my father. I will not be the man who makes you fade." He reached into his pocket and pulled out, not a medallion, a set of keys, and a passport. This is for you," he said, his voice thick. "There is a car in the garage. There is an account. More money than you could ever spend. A new name, a real one, for you and for Liliana. You can go. Right now. You can go to Paris, to London, to anywhere. You can be free. You can raise our daughter away from all of this, away from me." He was offering me an escape, the escape I'd been trying to find from the very beginning. I looked at the keys, I looked at the mountains, I looked at the passport. Then I looked at his face, at the agony in his eyes. He was offering me the one thing that would destroy him, his one true, final act of love. I did not take the keys. I stepped closer. I put my hand on his chest. I felt his heart, steady and strong beneath my palm. "I spent my whole life disappearing," I whispered. "I was a ghost. I was running from everything. I was so afraid of being trapped, of fading away, like my mother." I looked up into his dark, vulnerable eyes, and then I met you, and you were the only person who ever saw me. You were the only person who did not let me. I reached up, and I touched the scar on his forearm, the one the glass had left, the one I had bandaged. I traced it with my finger. I leaned in, and I kissed it. "I am not running anymore," I whispered, my lips against his skin. "I am not fading, and I am not leaving." I kissed his knuckles, the ones marked by a life I would never understand, but one I was no longer afraid of. I kissed the pulse in his throat. "Thank you," I whispered, "for not letting me disappear." His hands, shaking just as they had that night, came up to cup my face. He pulled me in, and he kissed me. It was not a kiss of passion or of surrender. It was a kiss of peace, a kiss of home. Later that night, the world was silent. The fire crackled, casting a warm, golden glow over the wooden room. The candles on the dresser flickered. We were in bed, tangled in the sheets, but it was different. We were not clinging to each other. We were just resting. I was curled against his side, his arm heavy and warm over my waist. And on the nightstand beside the bed was the baby monitor, a small, glowing green light. From it, we could hear the soft, tiny, rhythmic breathing of our daughter, asleep in her bassinet by the fire. We lay there for hours, in the candlelight, not speaking, just listening to her breathe. Outside, I knew guards were patrolling the perimeter. The fortress was secure, but in here, in this quiet mountain room, a family had finally begun. Thank you so much for listening to this story. We would love to know where you are listening from. so please drop a comment and say hello. Be sure to subscribe to Mafia Romance Stories for more chapters and new adventures. And finally, let us know your thoughts on Luca and Juliet's journey. We cannot wait to read what you think.